Linjani lonke makadime se
Maarifado Research Presentation. What happens when we die? Why do we die? These are some of the questions to ask concerning death. Is death the end? Where do we go when we die? Is there a good or evil death? How can we experience a good death? Yes, what happens when we die? Linjani lonke makadime se. Welcome everyone. This is a reality stabilizing program by Preacher by LM Dumizulu of Hamiti Buru Ethics Maarifado. Modern death catastrophe. Let's look at this. Sometime around 20,000 down to 5,000 BCE, it would appear by evidence of human ecology, physiology and sociology today that someone tampered with the time space of Africans, especially of the nobility, at their death, and used the great pyramid structure of Kufa or Kufu to do it because of the missing cap. That's why we come to this conclusion. In almost all African traditions and their systems, death is not the end of being. The deceased would typically be reincarnated into his or her own family as a member of the same gender experienced when living, or if all goes well, capture that, if all goes well, they will become an ancestor. But what does becoming an ancestor mean? Not everyone is eligible, for one has to be an adult with children and having lived a certain life during their life as physical entities. We see here the ancient pictures of the funeral ceremonies of the ex-Ob of Benin in 1914. You can see all the death masks and all the rituals and the performance of death rites. What happens after we die? Over the course of human history, death has fascinated millions. Bantus, other people, including professionals like philosophers, theologians, artists, scientists, as well as medical scientists and practitioners, all have endeavored to address these questions concerning death, but with less success. When a human dies, your carbon dioxide, which is in your melanin of the ninefold soul, leaves the body carrying the signature of self-identification as well as your consciousness. It's so called ether, which has been removed from science, but now is making a comeback. And also the Thomson model of the unit of ether, which he has used to prove that ether exists. A carbon quantum gravity magnetic field is generated right around your electrical or spiritual aspects. That is before you have left your physical body completely, because you have to take all the necessary spiritual evidence and practices and the experiences out of your physical body. That's why we as Bantus don't recommend cremation or any other systems like cutting off limbs or donating organs and all stuff like that, because you need your signature, this self-identification and consciousness, which is a carbon quantum magnetic field signature that is generated. It would appear that in ancient Hamid, around the time of the pyramids, when they were used, priests of Maati who were actually supposed to officiate on death had a comprehensive understanding of quantum physics, chemistry, biology and mathematics, to the point that they would be able to engineer and manipulate your death environment and use it for your own vehicle to go beyond, using it to create your spirit machine. You need that spirit machine because it carries your signature. Before Anubis or any of the ancestors comes to collect you, you have to use your free will within your ninefold soul to predetermine where you are likely to go by the choices that you had made in life, involving knowledge, thinking, and all other good practices, as well as ability to shed off anything that will cause your spirit machine to direct. Ancient African technology has contributed a lot, but unfortunately the information has not been believed or thought. The pyramid design shows that someone designed a carbon dioxide fume ventilator. We will show you, and we are showing you here, why they changed and moved the line of magnetic line from ancient Kemet to London. That was the reason to control the gates or the star gates for you that allows you to enter there. But you can use your totems, terrestrial totems, as well as cosmic totems to open. They are your keys and you can use them. So you need this. And there's also that which kept believed to have been made by analysis shows that it was not gold, but an alloy of aluminium and phosphorus. Phosphorus is burning in spirit. With good knowledge of chemistry, this alloy would have been used to restore the self-consciousness signature of a dead person, just like a memory card, but only temporarily at the instant of release when the bonds to the physical melanin of body stop working. That's why they have to write inside your coffin your actual name as well as your ancestral or codes. That's your totems. So that's where the cap was. That's your exit into the cosmos just before you enter into the realm of the ancestors. So you need what we call death training and also death rituals. Thoughtful practices like mummification, varying burial and funeral rituals were conducted by practitioners or students of the Maarifado temple school. That's in ancient times, for the sole purpose of memory preservations and redirecting towards a specific frequency. They had reduced issues of afterlife using the curricula of African consciousness or African universal empathy. These systems trained humans to know how to die and how to do it to avoid death catastrophe, or death catastrophe, which means your soul goes into imprisonment. Examples of death catastrophe: unfortunately, colonization and enslavement, plus the mass acceptance and promotion of foreign religions, ideologies, or thinking or education has a significant impact upon how people understand death and dying. The consequences about this are as follows. If there is an afterlife, or if you have an immortal soul inside you, at death you will need all in your memory, carrying passwords or codes that holds the keys to how you lived your physical life, the specific training you have had in your physical life, and everything else involved with your personality and your spirituality, as well as your understanding. Now imagine if your physical life was a lie. That is, you lived a life like a dog, a cat, or you were unconscious of yourself. How would you go over so that you can be able to avoid becoming a slave or to sell your soul or have your soul stolen? Just like your physical life. Therefore, this is the example of modern death catastrophe. Let's give a second example which illustrates this issue of a soul imprisonment or modern death catastrophe. We go here to this slide, Baganda funeral. It explains the end part of the funeral rites, and then it introduces something that is very dangerous. The climax of Baganda behavior towards the dead are the last funeral rites. They are meant to end the mourning period, which means we are still mourning even for those ancestors or those dead whom we have not performed the last funeral rites. Now, here's the problem. Baganda Muslims have brought this within Islamic practice. So they're taking what they should. It's like mixing aviation fuel in a petrol car or a diesel car. Your spirit machine doesn't need that. You are living a lie. They recite the Quran overnight, pray for the dead, give sermons about righteousness, and invoke Allah's mercy and the blessings on the dead. This is the same Allah that caused millions of our black brothers to be killed, to be enslaved, to be sodomized, castrated, and abused, even up to today. All these evils that we see and you're calling for that God is mercy and blessing. What kind of blessings? So this is a catastrophe that we are brewing and cooking for our own ourselves. Let's look at soul theft, which is very real, and how you can use your free will before Anubis. The scholastic teaching that individuals and societies make sense of death in different ways is a crucial truth seldom grasped. If we understand this as Bantus, we will correct all the fallacies that we are living in. So why do we die? Do we really die? The idea that there is a diversity in our beliefs about death, burial, and how we must die is an unfortunate result of the said destruction of the ancient knowledge of original peoples of this planet. We are now forced to accept colonial and slavish teachings in matters of funeral rituals, as we have already demonstrated, and dying decisions. So people go to euthanasia, go through all these other things that we know. And the process like flowers, coffins, crosses, Christian or other white songs sung at your funeral, and decorations of your grave are memory dating activities. These continue at various levels to be understood by different people at different cultures. But as if you are a Muntu or a Bantu or melanin dominant person, you should understand that death or dying is not something to play with. If your grave has the signature of a cross, or you have been buried using burial rites that are not in connection with your totem and ancestry and culture and tradition, or using other people's identities, you are a lost soul. You are a lost soul. Why did they chop off the heads of our ancestors? Because they were bespeaking their souls. That's why they even knock off their noses. They know what they are doing. They are erasing the memories and distorting the spiritual magnetic field that captures and restores the memories. As they are exhuming our ancestors in Hamid, and we have not gone anywhere where they came from and exhumed any of their ancestors, but they do that on our own ancestors in the guise of research in Hamid and many other places. They know exactly what they are doing. When we say rest in peace, or when we bury our dead, they must never be dug up and be displayed for the public to see for whatever reasons. It's taboo, it cannot be done. It should never ever be done. Is there anything known as good death? Yes, it's natural death in good old age, and also dying after activating your identity. After storing the signatures of a few dead people for a period of time, the priests correctly determined that the upper atmosphere or exosphere is a stargate, an entry into the ancestral world. Right? Consider this as the earth, and this is what we're talking about. These are the gates. Specific. Second, earth. For Africans, we call it Nyikazimu. These allow them to design a manual, a way of pushing a dead person's signature through a stargate of their own by bypassing the universe. So instead, they had a system where they were not following all that, but they would use and bypass this. To understand stargates, the simplest experiment that must be understood and demonstrated to the African mind or African student was that you should aim for a good death, which is when we are in an eternity capturing mode all times. There we are demonstrating the stargates here. This is key to everything. You can go and study more about this. Self-imprisonment is what has killed us. Our current status was predetermined by our ancestors who lost the wars against colonizing and enslaving foreigners. Therefore, to insist that we can be assisted by such ancestors is reducing our potent and power. Rather, we must restore their death to bail off continued modern death catastrophe, even amongst ourselves as living entities and living human beings on the earth. Also, those who die as Christians, as Muslims, atheists, and others, means that they never activated anything positive for us, but negative. Having the self-consciousness of someone in a coma and sleepwalking unable to reflect on your human actions, even believing in a violent subjective human religion or experience or existence via non-Maat Ubuntu religions called Isfet, gives you a subjective logic and subjective to empathy, and you'll be unable to exhibit objective logic of human Maarifa logic, objective empathy which we need. And therefore, you worship idols, you activate powers that destroys us, and you erect walls that imprisons a lot of us. When you die, your soul is captured and recycled by the negative frequencies. What can we do to reverse modern death catastrophe? What restorative actions can you and me do regularly to balance these energies that are pouring out of our own people, child sacrifices, wars, organ soul theft, and the millions whose death rites have not been performed and done? This includes all our ancestors who perished fighting colonial forces from ancient times to now, and those who perish in ignorance of activating their identity. What can we do? Yes, you can do something. There are many activities, but Maarifado researchers have come up with a full system. They discovered this system in ancient scrolls and ancient teachings. It is the reflecting mirror ritual. We may share this with those that are interested, as long as you use the given codes. You can work and stop modern Bantu death catastrophe. Subscribe to our channel, Hamiti Iburu Ethics, to learn more about this, because Hamiti Iburu Ethics, Maarifa Development Organization, helps people of Bantu heritage reclaim their spiritual identity. Shoot us an email and send us an email on join@maarifado.com. This is our website. Till we meet again, thank you, Tatenta Siabonga. Stop modern Bantu death catastrophe.